Hi everyone, I'm Marcy, and since Easter's coming up, today I'm making hot cross buns with bits of dried apricot and an orange glaze. If you've never had hot cross buns before, they're a spicy and sweet sticky bun with a cross on top, and traditionally they're eaten on Good Friday or on Easter, although they're fantastic any day of the year. First, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed to this channel, and let's get baking. When my daughter was first learning piano at age 5, the first song she learned how to play was called Hot Cross Buns. And at the time, I didn't even know it was a thing. But years later, I looked into it. And when I found out the meaning behind them, I knew this was something that I had to learn how to make. The cross represents the crucifixion of Jesus, and the spices signify the spices that were used to embalm him. So you can see why this would be so popular around Easter. So here's what you're going to need to make them. 1 cup warm milk, 1/4 cup sugar, 2 1/4 teaspoon dry yeast. Now, if you buy it in a packet, it's exactly 1 packet. You'll need 4 cups all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon salt, 1 teaspoon cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon nutmeg, 1/8 teaspoon ground cloves, 1/8 teaspoon ground ginger. You'll need the zest of 1 orange along with a little bit of the juice, 3½ tablespoons butter at room temperature, anywhere from 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup of the dried fruit of your choice. Raisins are most popular, but today I'm going with dried apricots. This is what they look like when I bought them at the store, but you can see that I chopped them up. And finally, you'll need 1 egg slightly beaten. And I'll go ahead and put all the ingredients and amounts in the description box below, but let's go ahead and get started. First thing I'm going to do is combine the dry active yeast with the sugar, and I'll just give it a quick mix. Then I can add the warm milk. You don't want it too hot, just a nice lukewarm. I'll mix again to get it dissolved, then I'll set it aside for 10 minutes so the yeast can activate. While that's going, I'll sift 4 cups of flour into a large mixing bowl. To it, I'll add the salt, along with all the spices. That's the cinnamon, the nutmeg, the cloves, and the ginger. Next, I'll take the orange and zest it directly into the bowl. This is going to add a nice citrus flavor that will also complement the glaze I'll be making later. In fact, I'm going to save a little rind for that glaze. I'll go ahead and whisk all these dry ingredients together. Then I'll take the butter and work it into the dry ingredients. I'm using a pastry blender. When it's all broken down into the flour, take the yeast and milk mixture and pour it into your dry ingredients. Give it a quick mix. Add in the egg and continue to work it all together. It's at this point you'll want to switch to using your bare hands. When you've got a sticky dough, add in your dried fruit and work it in as best you can. Then lightly flour a clean, flat surface. Drop the dough onto it and knead. It will be sticky at first, but keep working it, flipping, pushing down, and rotating. It should take about 10 minutes of kneading for the dough to become smooth like this. When you've got that, lightly grease the same mixing bowl you used earlier. Drop in your dough ball, cover with the kitchen towel, and let it rise in a warm place until it doubles in size. It took about 1.5 hours for my dough to fully rise. A lot of times it just depends on where you live. It could take up to 2 hours, but mine looks pretty good, so now I'm just gonna punch it and knead it again real quickly, and then we can cut it up. I want to cut the dough into equal parts, and flattening it a bit will help with that. I first cut it in half, then I cut the halves into halves, and so on until I have 16 individual pieces. Admittedly, I wasn't very accurate, but you get the idea. Now take each piece and roll it into a smooth ball. You can do this by pulling the dough along the sides and pinching it in the middle. Then flip it over, place it onto your surface, cup your hands, and roll it slightly. This looks great, so I'll place it onto my baking sheet lined with parchment paper and continue with the rest. When you've got them all on the baking sheet, cover and let them rest another 30 minutes so the dough rises again. Then we can add the crosses. For this, put about half a cup of flour into a bowl and slowly add in some water. Start with about 1/4 of a cup, mix, and then keep adding a little at a time as necessary. You want to have the consistency of icing, or better yet, toothpaste. Place it into a pastry bag and pipe out the crosses. Go across the middle of each bun and continue on down the row. Then rotate your baking sheet and make a line in the opposite direction until all the buns are crossed. Unfortunately, it's at this point that I went into autopilot and started making the glaze instead of placing the buns in the oven to bake. I took 1/4 of a cup of sugar, I mixed in a little water, added a little orange zest to it, and a big squeeze of fresh orange juice. I whisked it together and was in such a groove that I began brushing it onto the unbaked buns. You're supposed to bake them before you glaze them. Now I had no choice but to put them in the oven at 350 and hope for the best. They take anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes to bake. Well, despite my snafu, they still managed to turn out looking pretty decent. I don't know what I was thinking, but in my defense, I've been up since 5 a.m., so I'm pretty tired. Anyway, it's at this point that you're supposed to brush the glaze on, so I guess that's an excuse for me to brush on a little more. And that's it. These hot cross buns are ready to eat. A lot of people will toast them and put butter on them, but I like them just like this one. They're still nice and warm. And you can see that they're really soft and sticky. Definitely sticky, but they smell heavenly. Let's go ahead and give it a taste. And they're pretty on the inside too. They're so yummy. They're spicy and just lightly sweet. I love the apricot and the orange glaze on there. Really, definitely worth all the effort. You owe it to yourself to make them at least once. Thanks so much for checking out this video. If you liked it, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. You can also follow me at Marcy Inspired on Instagram and Facebook. Have a wonderful Easter, my friends, and blessings from my kitchen to yours.